My name is Kirsten, and this is the story of the night my family finally made it clear I didn't belong. I showed up to Braylon's engagement dinner expecting to celebrate, to smile for the photos, to do what I always did, which was playing the role of the good daughter. But from the moment I stepped inside that upscale restaurant, something felt off. And then I saw it, the gift exchange. Not equal presents, not even close, but a slap in the face disguised as celebration. At first I thought there had to be some explanation, but there wasn't. It was a message. A message that said, you don't matter. But here's the thing about pushing someone aside for too long, eventually they stop trying to fit in. So I made a choice that night, and what happened after, well, let's just say it shocked everyone. I pulled into the parking lot of Romano's, my hands trembling slightly as I turned off the engine. An exclusive Italian restaurant in downtown Chicago, the kind of place where a single meal costs more than my weekly grocery budget. Everything about this dinner screamed extravagance. Everything except for my invitation, which had come as an afterthought text message. With a steadying breath, I stepped out of my Honda Civic, smoothing down my simple black dress from Target. I wasn't here to cause drama. I wasn't here to make this about me. It was Braylon's engagement celebration, and I had accepted long ago that I wasn't the favorite daughter. I just hadn't expected them to rub it in my face so blatantly. Inside, a hostess with perfectly styled hair greeted me at the podium. Name? She asked, her manicured finger hovering over the reservation list. Kirsten, my voice came out steady despite the knot in my stomach. Kirsten Morrison. Her expression shifted slightly as she scanned the list. My chest tightened as she took longer than necessary to find my name. Then something flickered across her face, confusion. I recognized that look. I dreaded that look. Oh, here you are, she said, though her tone suggested surprise. You're with the Morrison party. She hesitated, glancing toward the private dining room. Right this way, she said. I followed her through the main dining area, past tables of well-dressed couples enjoying their expensive meals. My eyes caught the elegant setup ahead. A long table in a private room, already filled with familiar faces. Lynette and Roderick Morrison, my parents, sat at the center next to Braylon and Thorne. Braylon's college friends, Thorne's business associates, even his assistant and her boyfriend had prime seats at the table. And then I saw the empty chair. At the very end. Next to the kitchen door. I turned back to the hostess. Is this really where I'm sitting? I asked. Her smile became forced. I'm sorry, but that's what's marked on our chart. A slow burn started in my chest. Not even at a regular spot at the family table. No, they had shoved me to the very end as if I were an afterthought, like a relative they had to accommodate out of obligation, not their daughter. Still, I held on to some ridiculous hope that this was just an oversight, that maybe, just maybe, my own mother hadn't orchestrated this humiliation. I spotted her across the private dining room, standing behind Braylon, beaming as she adjusted her daughter's designer engagement ring for the photographer. My sister looked radiant, perfect, adored, just as she had always been. Braylon caught my gaze, tilted her head, then smirked. That smirk told me everything I needed to know. I forced myself forward. Mom, I said, keeping my voice light, can I talk to you for a second? Lynette barely spared me a glance. Oh darling, not now. Can't you see we're setting up for the gift exchange? She said. It'll only take a second, I said through gritted teeth. She sighed, annoyed but obliging, and stepped aside. Braylon didn't move, of course. She just watched, her smirk growing. I said, I just noticed my seat, it's right next to the kitchen. Lynette let out a dismissive hum. Well, we had to prioritize the immediate family and special guests at the center, Kirsten. I blinked. Immediate family? I am immediate family, I said. Lynette let out a forced, airy laugh as if I'd said something absurd. Oh sweetheart, don't be so dramatic. Braylon finally spoke. Did they mess up your seat? Wow, that's unfortunate. Her voice dripped with false sympathy. You know how crazy restaurant reservations can be, she said. So many little details, things get overlooked, she added. Her eyes glowed with amusement. She knew this wasn't an accident. I turned back to my mother. Mom, you really think it's okay for me to be seated away from the family? I asked. Lynette sighed again, clearly bored of the conversation. Kirsten, don't make a big deal out of this. It's Braylon's special night. Just be grateful you're here. Grateful. The word lodged itself in my throat, bitter and unspoken. Be grateful for being treated like a distant cousin at my own sister's engagement dinner. Be grateful for being discarded, shoved aside, forgotten. I opened my mouth, but Roderick, my father, my ever-passive, avoidant father, finally spoke. It's just seating, honey, he said, not even looking up from his phone. Let's not make waves, he said. That was it. That was all he had to say. I didn't even bother responding. What was the point? A new voice broke the silence. That's quite a seating arrangement. I turned and found Tamara, Thorne's mother, standing nearby, wine glass in hand. Her eyes flickered toward Braylon, then back to me. Her expression was sharp, calculating. Braylon stiffened slightly. Lynette gave her a rehearsed, gracious smile. Oh Tamara, you know how tricky these family dinners can be. We tried our best to accommodate everyone, Lynette said. Tamara hummed, unconvinced. She looked at me just a second too long, as if reading between the lines. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I held her gaze. Braylon looped her arm through my mother's, effortlessly steering the conversation away. Mom, we should really start the gift exchange before dinner gets cold. And just like that, I was dismissed. The private dining room around me buzzed with conversation, clinking silverware, and laughter, a celebration I wasn't truly a part of. I was here, but not welcome. I walked away, my pulse hammering, not toward my assigned seat, not toward the corner by the kitchen. I reached for my purse, fumbling with the strap as I tried to process what had just happened. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone, staring at the family group chat notification. If they thought I was just going to sit there quietly and take this, they didn't know me at all. I found myself in the restaurant's small lobby, my back pressed against the cool marble wall, fingers gripping my phone. Conversation, clinking glasses, and muffled celebration spilled from the private dining room, a world I was never truly a part of. The isolation wasn't new. The humiliation, though sharper this time, felt oddly familiar, like an old wound being torn open again. This wasn't an accident. They wanted me to feel small, insignificant, and damn it, they succeeded. The sting in my chest spread, not just from this moment, but from years of being the backup daughter, the afterthought. My mind drifted back, pulling me into the past before I could stop it. 2 years ago, I was back at my parents' house for Christmas, helping clean up after Braylon's latest visit. I hadn't been home much since starting my job at the city, and it showed. Dust had settled on my old achievements, my college diploma tucked behind Braylon's high school modeling photos. The living room walls told the story. Dozens of framed pictures of Braylon at various events, red carpets, brand launches. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just helping Mom organize the photo albums scattered on the coffee table. It was always about organizing Braylon's content. Then I saw it, the family photo wall that guests always commented on. I stopped counting after 20 pictures of Braylon. Professional headshots, candid moments, family vacations where she posed like she was still on camera. And there, in the corner, was one photo of me. My college graduation. Not even centered properly, slightly crooked, like it had been added as an afterthought. I counted again, hoping I'd missed something. 23 photos of Braylon spanning from childhood to last month. One photo of me from 4 years ago. I remember standing there, staring at that wall, a lifetime of feeling invisible suddenly confirmed in living color. When Mom found me there, she barely noticed my expression. Oh, you know how hard it is to keep up with all of Braylon's events, she said, straightening another one of my sister's photos. You're so low maintenance, I never have to worry about getting good pictures of you, she said. Like that was supposed to be a compliment. Like that was supposed to explain why my own achievements weren't worth displaying. She had documented every moment of Braylon's life, yet not one milestone of mine was worth the wall space. That was the moment I knew I had always been invisible in this family. The present crashed back around me, the sound of Braylon's laughter slicing through the air like a knife. The weight of that photo wall pressed against my chest even now. I glanced at my assigned seat by the kitchen door, the insult of it, the pettiness, the cruelty. If they wanted to remind me of my place, message received. I inhaled sharply, pushing myself off the lobby wall. If my family had already decided I didn't belong, maybe it was time to act like it. I stepped toward the dining room, my mind racing, but before I even reached the doorway, I caught sight of Thorn. He was standing off to the side near the bar setup, a glass of wine in his hand, but he wasn't drinking it. His eyes weren't scanning the room with the ease of a man who just got engaged to the love of his life. Instead, they were locked on something, or someone, with unmistakable concern. And then they landed on me. He exhaled long and slow before setting down his glass and walking toward me. Kirsten, his voice was even, but there was something underneath it. I raised an eyebrow. Thorn. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The dinner celebration continued around us. People were talking, laughing, toasting an engagement while its foundation slowly cracked beneath the surface. Thorn shifted, glancing over his shoulder toward the far side of the room where Braylon was posing for photos, basking in the attention of her followers' comments. When he looked back at me, his jaw tightened. There it was again, that uncertainty, that doubt. Kirsten, he started, voice lower this time, I know we haven't talked much, but can I ask you something? I tilted my head. That depends. Is this polite dinner conversation, or is this something else? I asked. He didn't smile, didn't even pretend. Something inside me shifted. Thorn sighed, running his hand through his hair like he was already regretting this. Does your sister ever talk about me differently when I'm not around? There it was. That single question, that moment where reality peeked through the cracks of whatever illusion Braylon had been feeding him. For a split second, I considered lying, maybe out of some misplaced sense of family loyalty, maybe because exposing the truth in a setting like this felt dangerous. But then I remembered my seat assignment. I remembered Braylon's smirk. I remembered my mother's dismissal. And I remembered who Braylon really was. I glanced at his untouched wine glass. You should probably finish that first, I said. Thorn tensed, then he lifted the glass to his lips and took a long sip. Thorn, I said carefully, I don't think you know Braylon as well as you think you do. His jaw tightened. I was afraid of that, he said. Silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable. She's been acting different lately, he finally said, his voice quieter now, edged with something close to frustration. Secretive. There are things she doesn't want me to see, he said. My stomach twisted because, of course, there were. Before I could respond, Tamara appeared. She was walking toward us, her expression sharp, calculating. Braylon's future mother-in-law, the only woman in this room with more legal power than my sister had social influence. Tamara stopped in front of Thorn, her gaze flicking toward me for just a second before settling on him. Darling, she said smoothly, I believe you should see this. Then she held out her phone. Thorn took it hesitantly, scrolling down, his face shifting from confusion to realization to something far, far worse. Braylon's Instagram DMs and private story screenshots. To her inner circle, to her brand contacts, to people who had no business knowing what was in her heart, because what was in her heart was calculating and cold. The messages were brutal, petty, cruel. Braylon trashing Tamara, calling her controlling, a uptight lawyer who just needed to write the checks and stay out of her content creation. Braylon talking about Thorn, how she was training him to be the perfect Instagram boyfriend, how he'd fund whatever lifestyle she wanted because he was so desperate to be seen as successful. And then the worst one. Braylon laughing to her friends about how easy this relationship was because Thorn's startup money meant she'd never have to work a real job again. Thorn's hand clenched around the phone. Tamara watched him carefully. Your fiancé doesn't just dislike me, Thorn, she paused, voice calm but sharp as glass. She's been planning to use you since day one, she added. Thorn swayed slightly, as if the floor beneath him had just cracked open. I said nothing because this wasn't my moment. This was his. I just watched as his expression shifted from doubt to anger. The engagement dinner may be happening, but the foundation beneath it was already crumbling. The engagement dinner may still be in motion, but behind closed doors, the family confrontation that followed would change everything. I followed the movement of bodies as we were ushered into a small private room adjacent to the main dining area. The air was heavy, thick with the kind of tension that made your skin crawl. Braylon was in the center of it all, perfectly composed, or at least pretending to be. Tamara stood near the door, arms crossed, lips pressed together in a thin line. Thorne lingered by the window, his wine untouched, his shoulders rigid. Lynette, of course, was already speaking, already smoothing, already making excuses. "This is all just a misunderstanding," she said, offering a thin, forced smile. "Emotions are running high. It's an engagement celebration, after all," she continued to say. "Let's not let a little family drama." Tamara cut her off. "Family drama?" she echoed, eyes narrowing. "Lynette, this isn't drama. This is deception," Tamara said. Braylon let out a mocking laugh, arms crossing over her designer dress. "You've seriously pulled us aside for this?" She turned toward Thorne, voice dripping with sweetness. "Babe, tell me you don't actually believe this crap," she added. Thorne didn't answer. He didn't even look at her. Lynette reached for his arm, her voice softer now. "Thorne, sweetheart, you have to understand. Braylon has been under enormous pressure building her brand. Social media is exhausting. People say things they don't mean when they're stressed," Lynette said. Tamara's lips curled. "Funny, because she seems to mean every word when she talked about using him," Tamara said. Braylon's jaw tightened, but before she could fire back, Roderick spoke, and the entire room stilled. "Lynette, stop." The words were quiet, but they landed like a slap. My mother turned, blinking as if surprised to be interrupted. My father was not a man who raised his voice, not a man who intervened, but tonight something shifted. "You've enabled Braylon her entire life," he said, his voice tired, weighted with something I couldn't place. "And look what it's turned her into," he added. Braylon gasped, genuine shock flashing across her face. "Dad, you're taking her side?" she asked. Roderick ignored her, turning to me instead. "Kirsten has been right all along," he said. The words rang in my ears. My breath caught. My mother physically recoiled. For the first time in my life, my father was choosing me. Lynette shook her head, laughing nervously as if this was some kind of mistake. "Roderick, don't be ridiculous," she said. "Braylon is a fraud." Thorne spoke before he even realized it, his voice raw, like he was just now waking up to the fact that he'd been dating a stranger. Braylon paled. "Excuse me?" she asked. I took a slow step forward, locking eyes with my mother. I needed her to understand this moment. I needed her to feel the weight of it. "If you keep covering for her," I said quietly, "you will lose more than just me, Mom." For the first time, Lynette faltered. Braylon saw it, and she panicked. Her voice sharpened, desperation creeping in. "You're all turning against me because of her." Tamara let out a slow breath, taking a sip of her wine before delivering the final blow. "We're turning against you because we finally see you for what you are." Braylon physically flinched, her breath shuddering, eyes darting from face to face. She had always been in control, until now. A cornered influencer is the most dangerous kind, and Braylon had no intention of going down quietly. The air in the private room was suffocating, charged with electric tension. No one moved, no one spoke. Braylon stood rigid, clutching her clutch so tightly her knuckles went white. She was losing control. "Braylon, stop," Lynette said desperately. But Braylon didn't stop. Across the room, Thorne's silence was heavier than any accusation. I saw the disgust in his eyes. Braylon turned to me, eyes narrowed. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" she asked me. I met her gaze. "I don't have to think, Braylon," I replied. "I know," she said. Her lips curled into something dark. "You've always been jealous of me," she added. I tilted my head. "Jealous of what?" I asked. "The fact that you have to manipulate and lie just to make people stay?" I added. "Look around, Braylon. Your world is shrinking. You played your game well, I said, but you forgot one thing. I stepped forward. I know who you really are, I said. Braylon flinched. I know about the fake sponsorships, the DMs, the things you've said about Thorn. Thorn stiffened. Braylon's face drained of color. Kirsten, Lynette whispered, she's still your sister. For a split second, I hesitated. But I knew if the roles were reversed, Braylon wouldn't hesitate. You're all turning against me because of her. Braylon's voice cracked. Tamara set down her wine glass. We're turning against you because we finally see you for what you are. Braylon looked at Thorn desperately. You don't believe them, do you? She asked. Thorn didn't answer. That silence was her death sentence. Braylon lunged forward, but I didn't back down. Her hand swung toward me, but Tamara stepped between us. Braylon stumbled back, right into the main dining room. The conversation halted. Every guest turned toward the spectacle. Braylon stood there disheveled, breathless. It was a public meltdown. Guests whispered, phones came out. You're my fiancé, Braylon said frantically to Thorn. You have to stand by me. I don't think I ever really knew you, Thorn said exhaustedly. Braylon staggered. No, you don't mean that, she said. But Thorn's eyes were empty. Just done. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. What are you doing? Braylon's face drained of color. Taking back my grandmother's ring, he said. A collective gasp ripped through the guests. You're really doing this here? Braylon asked. He should have done it weeks ago, Tamara said coldly. You were never going to be a part of this family. Braylon staggered back, her world unraveling. Braylon may have lost her engagement, but she still had one weapon left. Revenge. Her chest rose and fell in quick breaths, her hair mussed, hands trembling. But this wasn't over. She turned to our mother. Mom, she pleaded, you know this isn't true. They're trying to ruin me. Lynette hesitated. She had spent a lifetime cleaning up Braylon's messes. Braylon, she started, voice uncertain. Braylon seized the moment. She gripped Lynette's hand, pressing it against her chest. Mom, you know me. You know I love Thorn, Braylon said. Stop. Thorn's voice was cold, final. He was holding a folded piece of paper. Tamara stepped forward. Go on, Thorn, she said smoothly. Read it. Thorn's jaw clenched, then he began. Braylon Morrison signed a contract with a reality TV production company 3 weeks ago. A collective gasp ripped through the guests. You were planning to film our relationship, he said, each word cutting. Turn our engagement into content, he said. Braylon paled. That's not, she said. Tamara laughed. That's a signed contract. The kind with legal consequences, Tamara said. Braylon's confidence shattered. Was anything ever real, Braylon? Thorn's voice was exhausted. Did you ever love me, or was I just another prop for your content? He asked. Braylon spun toward me. This is all your fault. She snapped. You've always been jealous of me. She yelled at me. But this time, it didn't land. I didn't care. No, Braylon, I said simply. This isn't my fault. This is who you've always been. I stepped forward. You manipulate, you lie, you take and take and take, and when things go wrong, you blame everyone else, I said. Lynette gasped softly. Braylon shook her head violently. No, that's not, Mom, tell her she's wrong. She shouted. But Lynette didn't move. She just stared. That silence was worse than any insult. Braylon looked around the room, seeking someone to take her side. For the first time in her life, no one did. The guests stared in stunned silence. Even Lynette said nothing. Braylon laughed bitterly. You all think you're better than me, she sneered. None of you will be anything without me. No one reacted. I stepped forward. You spent your whole life making sure I felt invisible, I said steadily. But look around, Braylon. You're the one no one sees anymore. For a split second, something in her cracked. Then she shoved it down. You don't get to be the hero in this story, she spat. I exhaled slowly. This isn't a story, Braylon. This is just the truth, I said. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. She turned to our mother. Lynette's expression was shattered. Tears shined in her eyes, not for Braylon, not for me, but for what she allowed to happen. She stared at me, really looked at me for the first time in years. I knew she saw it now. The damage, the choices, the consequences. But it was too late. I won't stay to watch the aftermath. I took a breath, shoulders back, and turned toward the exit. No dramatic speech, no second glance, just a quiet, final decision. I walked out into the crisp Chicago night. The cold filled my lungs, sharp and cleansing. A new beginning waited beyond those doors. The past may still linger, but I finally learned that not all endings need closure. It's been a week since the engagement dinner, a week since I walked out and left them all standing there, speechless. The fallout came fast. My phone buzzed with missed calls and messages from my mother, some apologetic, some defensive. Lynette Morrison didn't know how to lose. Braylon, meanwhile, went silent. No Instagram stories, no TikTok posts, no carefully curated content. She disappeared from social media like a cancelled influencer. The family group chat continued without me, still buzzing with updates and inside jokes. I should feel hurt. But I didn't. For the first time, I didn't need to be part of something that never truly included me. The call came that evening. I know I've made mistakes, Lynette said, as if it was that simple. I said nothing. I just don't know how to fix this, she said. I closed my eyes. There's nothing to fix. Some wounds don't heal. But I didn't say that. She waited, hoping I'd tell her how to make this go away. I won't. I just wanted you to know, she murmured before hanging up. Later, I got another message. An invitation to lunch. A quiet truce. For the first time, I considered saying no, not out of anger, but because I didn't need their validation anymore. This wasn't about them choosing me. It was about me choosing myself. I walked to my bookshelf and picked up an old family photo. Braylon front and center, radiant as always. Lynette beside her, hand on her shoulder. Me on the edge, like an afterthought. I set it down and didn't pick it up again. Instead, I stepped toward the window. The city stretched out before me, endless, full of possibilities. And for the first time, I felt freedom. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect, knowing your worth, refusing to beg for a seat at a table that was never meant for you. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away. Not every story needs closure. The real healing comes when you choose yourself.